Good morning. Today's class is on herpes virus. These herpes viruses are all DNA viruses and they are enveloped DNA viruses which affects humans and animals. They have a very characteristic feature, that is ability to establish latent infections. So due to this property of latency, they persist indefinitely in the host and they can undergo periodic reactivation. Morphology of these herpes viruses: the capsid is icosahedral, which is composed of 162 capsomeres which enclose the core. The core contains a double-stranded DNA. The nuclear capsid is surrounded by a lipid envelope which is derived from the host cell membrane. These envelopes carry spikes which measure about 8 nanometers in length. These also contain a space which is an amorphous space which is present between the envelope and the capsid, which is called as tegument. This tegument carries several proteins. So this picture shows you the morphology of the herpes virus, which is icosahedral, consisting of a double-stranded DNA capsid which is surrounded by an envelope, and it contains spikes on its surface. The herpes viruses, they replicate in host cell nucleus and they form Cowdrey type A type of intranuclear inclusion bodies which are called as Lipschutz bodies. These viruses are enveloped viruses, so therefore they are susceptible to fat solvents like your alcohol, ether, chloroform, bile salts, etc. They are heat labile and they can be stored at minus 70 degrees Celsius. The herpes viruses, they belong to Herpes viridae family, and 3 subfamilies are known. They are alpha, beta and gamma herpes viruses. To know the differences between the 3 subfamilies, the alpha viruses, they have a short replicative cycle. They cause latent infections in the sensory ganglion and they produce a cytopathic effect very rapidly in the cell culture lines. Examples are the herpes simplex viruses, varicella zoster virus. The beta herpes viruses, they replicate slowly, more than 24 hours for the replication to occur. The growth is best seen on the fibroblasts, which have a tendency to cause enlargement of the infected cell, therefore cytomegalo. The latent infections of these beta herpes viruses are in the salivary glands and the other glands. Example of herpes virus which belongs to this subclass is the cytomegalovirus. The gamma viruses, they have a very narrow host range. They replicate in the lymphoblastoid cells specific for B or the T lymphocytes. The latency is in the lymphoid tissues. Example of herpes virus which belongs to this subclass is Epstein-Barr virus. The next 2 slides show you the table wherein there are about 8 human herpes type of viruses. The names of these, the subfamily which they belong to, the target cells which they affect, where they have the latency and how they are transmitted. Okay, so you have 8 human types, that is herpes simplex 1, herpes simplex 2, you have varicella zoster, Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, herpes lymphotrophic virus which is type 6, human herpes virus 7, and 8 is your Kaposi sarcoma. For you to remember which subfamily they belong to, you can remember it as 1, 2, 3, that is herpes simplex 1, 2 and varicella zoster. They belong to alpha herpes virus subfamily, whereas 5, 6, 7 belong to your beta herpes viruses. 4 and 8 belong to gamma. Coming to the herpes simplex viruses, they occur only in humans. There are 2 types, herpes simplex type 1 and herpes simplex type 2. Herpes simplex type 1 is isolated from the lesions in and around the mouth, and usually the transmission is by direct contact or droplet spread from cases or carriers. Type 2 causes majority of genital herpes which are transmitted venereally. So to remember what is the type of lesions which HSV1 and HSV2 produce, you can remember it as above waist lesions are all HSV1 most often, and below waist are HSV type 2. To differentiate between the two types of HSV1 and HSV2, the pox which are formed on the chorioallantoic membrane on an embryonated chick egg, you will see that the HSV2 produces larger pox, and on the cell line, especially the chick embryo fibroblast cell lines, they replicate very well when compared to HSV1, and the infectivity is more temperature sensitive when it comes to HSV2, and they are neurovirulent in laboratory animals and also resistant to antivirals in cultures when compared to HSV1. Another method which can differentiate between these two is the restriction endonuclease analysis of viral DNA. Pathogenicity of the herpes simplex virus this is one of the common viral infections in humans, and the primary infections usually occur in early childhood, that is 2 to 5 years of age. Humans are the only natural hosts. Source of infection could be from saliva, skin lesions, or respiratory secretions. The asymptomatic carriers form the more important source of infection, especially when it comes to the genital lesions which are produced by HSV type 2 strains. Route of infections, close contacts is the mode of transmission. Herpes simplex type 2 is transmitted through sexual route and venereally, and the virus enters through the defect in the skin or the mucous membrane. They multiply locally with cell to cell spread. The virus then enters into the cutaneous nerve fibers and are transported intraaxonally to the ganglion where it replicates. From the ganglion, centrifugal migration of the virus occurs to the skin and the mucosa to cause the cutaneous and mucosal lesions. The latency of these HSV1 and HSV2 differ, that is, the HSV1 has a latency in the trigeminal ganglion and HSV2 in the sacral ganglion. Once they have the latency, they get reactivated periodically, causing recurrent oral or genital lesions. Antibodies may not prevent the recurrence, but because of the presence of the antibodies, the severity of the clinical disease can be reduced. Cell-mediated immunity is more important in resistance and also the recovery of herpes simplex infections. The herpes infections are much more frequent and disseminated when it comes to immunodeficiency patients, for example, HIV infections. The lesions which are, this slide shows you the lesions which are produced by HSV1 and HSV2. The above waist lesions are more common in HSV1, though they produce genital, but the percentage is very low. Whereas the HSV2, vice versa, it more commonly produces the genital lesions and less commonly the above waist lesions. The clinical manifestations, they produce the cutaneous infections, usually of the face, where it involves the cheek, chin, around the mouth and forehead. The typical lesions are blisters which are formed, and usually you get the fever blisters. This may be due to the reactivation of the virus due to some stimuli. For example, when you have high temperature or when you are exposed to extreme colds, these can trigger the reactivation of the virus and the lesions can be produced. It can also produce an occupational lesion, especially among doctors and nurses, which are called as herpetic vitiligo. The eczema herpeticum occurs in children. The mucosal lesions which it produces most commonly is the gingival stomatitis, which is a primary herpes infection, and it also produces herpes labialis, which is usually a recurrent infection. So this slide shows you some of the pictures of the lesions like herpes labialis, gingivitis and eczema herpeticum in a child. Ophthalmic lesions, this is commonest cause of corneal blindness. It produces keratoconjunctivitis, follicular conjunctivitis and very rarely chorioretinitis retinitis can be produced by herpes, and the type of the ulcers, which is the corneal ulcers which you get to see, are called as dendritic ulcers. The nervous system, it produces encephalitis, which manifests as fever and acute focal neurological deficits may be seen. It produces transverse myelitis or Guillain-Barré syndrome. Visceral lesions, esophagitis is a common visceral lesion. It also causes tracheobronchitis, pneumonitis, very rarely hepatitis, and the kind of disseminated lesions are more common in an immunocompromised patient. The genital lesions are most commonly produced by the herpes simplex type 2, especially around 85% of the genital lesions are produced by HSV type 2, occasionally by type 1. The recurrent genital herpes, these are much more milder when compared to the primary, and the new lesions may appear 1 to 2 days, only for 1 to 2 days, with a complete healing off within 9 to 10 days time. And the area when involved in a recurrent genital infections is smaller compared to the primary lesions, and the number of vesicular lesions are much lesser in a recurrent genital herpes infection. You may have around 3 to 5 episodes of recurrent genital herpes per year, and the recurrence with HSV2 is much more common when compared to HSV1, and the disease is usually self-limiting. This picture shows you some of the genital lesions. The upper two are from the penile lesions, and this is a vulval genital lesion. Congenital transplacental infection with HSV1 and 2 can occur with congenital malformations, and the postnatal herpes in children is usually due to HSV1. Neonatal herpes is confined to the eyes, mouth, or the skin, and sometimes may involve multiple organs. Laboratory diagnosis of herpes simplex viruses. The specimens which are collected are the vesical fluid, skin swabs, saliva, corneal scrapings or CSF, and for microscopy we perform what is called as a Zank smear, wherein the scrapings from the base of the vesicle is stained with 1% aqueous toluidine blue for about 15 seconds. So when this slide is seen at the microscope, you see a multinucleated giant cells with faceted nuclei and homogeneously stained ground glass chromatin. These cells are called as Zank cells. GIMSA stain can also be performed, wherein you can see the intranuclear Cowdrey type A inclusion bodies. Electron microscopy can be used for studying the morphology of the virus, and the herpes antigens can also be demonstrated by immunofluorescence. Coming to culture of these samples, the virus can also be isolated. The use of mice, chick embryo, chorioallantoic membrane can be used, but the sensitivity is slightly low. So therefore tissue cultures can be done, wherein we can use primary human embryonic kidney cell lines, primary human amnion cell lines, but most commonly used are the human diploid fibroblasts, and the growth is detected by the presence of cytopathic effect. Serology, it is usually used to differentiate the type 1 and type 2. You can also do the molecular studies, and antibody detection is usually done by using ELISA or the neutralization tests. PCR can be one of the diagnostic modality. Treatment is a topical application. Hydroxyuridine can be used, or systemic. If the lesions are numerous, you can use a systemic antiviral drug. Most commonly used is the acyclovir.